Hey,
Hey, Kieren.
how
How's it
are we?
going?
You all right?
Absolutely, brother.
Good, good.
You're looking good.
Thank you, thank you. It's same as mate. It's been a long time, but yeah, no, it's doing us both some good, isn't it? So
Absolutely. You're also sounding a lot better.
yeah. The laryngitis is slowly clearing up, just by doctor's rest, just doing as they tell you to do, and slowly we're getting there. Unfortunately, I can't take any form of anti-inflammatories, which would help with the inflammation. So it's just a long drawn out process, really. Just a lot of fluids and a lot of rest, really. So it's 6 weeks, but it could be
Oh
another
boy.
6 weeks. We don't know. So, but
Well,
it's good.
all the best,
Other than
man.
that, it's all good.
Absolutely. So, just a little background here for people that aren't aware. Kieran and I met on vacation this past Christmas in Tulum, Mexico. We were both there with our wives and child in tow, and
Yeah.
we met poolside when Denise, my wife, was working up the courage to jump in the water. Sensing her hesitation, Kieran just piped up, "Go for it!" And I don't think we stopped talking for the rest of the vacation.
No,
Well,
definitely not. And do you know what? It was just such a shame that our journey was coming to an end, shall we say, our vacation, because we hit it off from the start. We just gravitated towards each other, and do you know what? I've made a very very good friend. So I feel very blessed that we met, and we are looking to travel across the pond to come and see you guys.
absolutely, and us to you guys.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
So, not only you and I think our wives are still in contact every day, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken. Yeah,
Yeah. They're like two old women. They're just nattering away, but it's fantastic. It just shows you that it was meant to be. Definitely.
absolutely. So, I just want to say, what's really interesting about us meeting is the fact that we realized we have so much in common, not just on a personal level and just like the way we handle things and the way we interact socially, just health wise, where we both are powering through challenges of our own to this very day.
Yeah, very much so. Obviously, mine's not in comparison towards you, and we've spoken off screen about my admiration for you and for what you are doing and for forever doing. For me, it started back in 2014. I was taking a walk. It was my 1 year wedding anniversary, so I was with my wife and my 6-week-old daughter, just going for a walk in the forest, and basically I went into anaphylaxis, and went into an arrest, and basically was blue lighted to our local hospital, where I was put into an induced coma. Um, Unbeknown to me, the whole time I was in the coma, my wife was made aware that basically my body had shut down. My liver had packed up, my kidneys had packed up, and basically my body was starved of so much oxygen that there was a possibility, if I was to come through, that there was going to be severe complications. Um, Obviously, I was completely out cold, was unaware of all of this. And it wasn't until I actually was brought out of the coma that, I just showed a bit of fighting spirit, never give up, dig deep. And when you've got a loving wife, you've got a beautiful daughter, you've got an amazing support network, you just dig deep. You've got to get home for them, and that was really what got me through my first, shall I say, life changing incident. After various tests, once I was brought out of the coma, it turns out I'm allergic to pretty much everything. I'm allergic to any form of anti-inflammatories. any penicillin-based products, caffeine, birch trees, dust, you name it, I'm allergic to it. So I'm on lifetime medication now.
Were these brought on from childhood, or were they more adult onset allergies? I know those can often be
you know what? I think it was brought on adulthood, because when I was younger, I played sports. I got injuries, so therefore I would take anti-inflammatories to overcome them injuries, and never had any adverse effect, as in never had any anaphylaxis. It was just that one particular incident where I took some ibuprofen to clear a heavy head, shall we say, because it was our wedding anniversary the day before. And I think my body just basically said, enough is enough now, Kieren, you know. The old saying is, listen to your body. Well, I never did. I think I just pushed my body a bit too far. And I think that was, someone's way of saying, calm down, enough is enough. So yeah, so like you say, so now I'm on antihistamines, I'm on various different medications, but then from that, it's almost opened the floodgates for various other different illnesses that have reared their ugly head that I was not aware of. So it was almost like a knock-on effect.
Just curious, do you remember waking up as kind of you're with it immediately? Was it a very gradual kind of collecting yourself, or do you have a one particular moment where you realized something had transpired? Now you're in the hospital?
If I'm being totally honest with you, there's a lot of my memory that has been lost. The last thing I remember was saying to my wife at the time, I'm struggling for breath. So I'm asthmatic anyway. So I just said to her, I need my inhaler. But lo and behold, did I know that by the time she'd got me my inhaler, I'd basically flatlined. I'd actually flatlined there and then. Luckily for me, that across the road from where we were, there was a retained ambulance driver, paramedic, and he was on his lunch break. And my wife ran over to him. He defibrillated me to try to get a pulse. Couldn't, so he stabbed me with an EpiPen, which is adrenaline, and then blue lighted me to the nearest general hospital. And then that was when they took the decision to put me into the induced coma. But coming out of the coma, there's, even to this day, I've never really got my head around it. I came out, I was in the induced coma for just over a week. And by all means, like when they told my wife that there's a possibility that he may be seriously brain damaged, when I came around and she was trying to tell me all of this, it just wouldn't sink in. And even when I came out of hospital, I kind of buried my head in the sand. I didn't want to know the answers. I didn't want to know anything. I just wanted to get back to normality. Whether that's a pride thing, we tried to do a little bit of counselling as couple therapy, but to be honest, as a man growing up where I did in London, I didn't really want to show weakness. Right. You had to stand proud, and for me, I'm a proud man. But you're really the only person I've actually spoken to about it, really. I've never sought any form of counselling, and yeah, it's tough. I've been into some real dark places where it's upset me, and I want to know the answers, but I don't want to know the answers, if that kind of makes sense.
Oh yeah.
But luckily, like I say, and then obviously there's been various other events that have happened since that have just it's just cemented how I am as a person, really. My outlook on life, I try to enjoy every moment. Luckily, I've got a beautiful wife, a fantastic support friends, but there's always that little thing at the back of your mind which says, is it going to happen again? Unfortunately, we just don't know. I can take every precaution to prevent it from happening, but who knows?
I know we've spoken about this off screen. It's it's hard to know what you don't know. I guess, if that makes sense. You just kind of have to put on a brave face, just put on a big smile, and just courageously move forward, living every day for the most. It can be difficult, but yeah.
Yeah, it can be difficult because obviously, as you are as well, you're the man of the house. So your role as a husband and a father is not to show fear. It's not to show weakness. It's to stand strong. It's to stay focused. And some days are hard. Some days are easy. Some days I don't think about it. Other days more so. It's something I don't think will ever go away. People have said to me, try counselling. Yeah, I'm open to it, but I find it easier talking to people that I can trust. As in, I don't really know these psychiatrists. I'm just a name and number to them. Whereas to people like yourself, good friends, it's easier to talk to. And especially people like yourself that's been through something that's quite similar. And you can kind of understand where I'm coming from. But I know that there's a lot of people out there that are feeling the way that you and I do. And I think if I can give them any advice, it's to talk to people that you can trust and just seek help. Really, it's tough. Don't get me wrong, it is.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I started this whole endeavor, was through sharing our stories collectively of overcoming, struggling even. We're really helping people get through these tough times, whatever they may look like. We're making them stronger in whatever ways that's possible. It's just kind of really what I was going for in this whole endeavor, if you want to call it that.
And I think it's a fantastic thing that you're doing. And this is when I say, go back to what I was saying before. We've spoken off screen, and I said I absolutely admire you for your courage, your determination, for never giving up, and for what you're doing for people like myself and other people that do have a story but find it hard to communicate, to talk to people, because some people are proud and they it's a heavy load to carry. And this is just the beginning for people like yourself, where this is just going to blow up. You're going to do amazing things. You really are.
Thank you, buddy. So where does that leave you nowadays? I know when we spoke about it last, you're in the same kind of place I am. Monthly checkups moving forwards. I know treatable, not curable, is often thrown around.
Yeah. So for me, when I said it's opened the floodgates for various other problems for me. I suffer quite bad with chest infections, and I kept going back to my GP saying, look, something's not right. Something, you know your body. And I kept being persistent and saying something's not right. Well, anyway, they've done various tests, and it turns out I have a rare lung disease, which is called sarcoidosis. Now, when I say it's rare for the UK, but not so much for the US population. And it's basically an inflammation of the lymph nodes, and basically it causes your airways to contract as such, and causes me a lot of discomfort. Now, you said that it's it's incurable. It's just manageable. So today, funny enough, I've been to my hospital for a checkup. I've had a chest X-ray today, which I have every 3 months. I have a chest X-ray, I have a pulmonary lung test, and then I have a consultation with my general practitioner. And it is just to make sure that everything's stabilized and it hasn't got worse, or it's never gonna be curable. It's just something I've had to live with. Now, so far, I've never had to change my lifestyle as such. I just have to know my limits, know when to push myself and when to say enough is enough. Fortunately, with my job, I'm a car sprayer. So I restore old cars. As long as I use my PPE, I protect myself as much as possible, I'm still able to do the job that I love. So that way I feel blessed, because I haven't had to change my lifestyle with, like, occupation and stuff. But yeah, again, it all depends on the weather. If the weather's bad outside, then the damp causes lung problems. If it's too hot, it causes lung, it's just an ongoing issue. But rather than sitting back and feeling sorry for yourself, you've just got to keep going, man. You just have to enjoy life, do the things that make you happy. And one of the things that makes me happy is being with my beautiful wife and my beautiful daughter. I've got an 8-year-old daughter who loves being outdoors. So we do a lot of paddleboarding. We go on as many vacations as we can, which is when we met yourself and your beautiful wife, Denise. We just try to live life to the fullest, because you just never know when the man upstairs tells you it's time. So I think it's so important that, just be you. Just do what makes you happy to the best of your capability.
Absolutely.
So it is tough, but again, like I say, it is what it is. And then, like I say, and then I was thrown another curveball at the end of December 2019. I had a pulmonary artery spasm, aka a heart attack. That was brought on from my younger years, as we say. I was massively into my fitness. I was into the gym, and I was into bodybuilding, in particular. And of course, I was training for many, many years, wasn't seeing the results that I really wanted. What do you do as a young teenager with no brain in their head? You go on the steroids. Was on the steroids for many years, never was an abuser. I'd done it to, how I thought was best for me. Little did I know that later on in life, it was going to cause me so many complications. So, had the heart attack. They done a few angiograms, and basically the angiogram results showed that the 3 pulmonary arteries leading to the heart had closed. So it was a life or death situation. I'm thinking, how can I be having a heart attack when I'm sitting here talking to you? So they couldn't believe it themselves. They didn't know what had caused it, because I was in bed. I just woke up one morning and had the sweats, the telltale signs, the grey colouring of the skin. So they took me to the local hospital again, angiogram. Basically, they said, look, if we can't get these arteries open, we are going to have to do a triple heart bypass. I'm thinking, I've got a wife, a daughter. I've already put them through a respiratory arrest. I've already put them through, trips to the hospital because of my lung condition. I'm thinking, I can't put them through, this whole heart attack scenario. So they said, look, all we can do is we can try this. We've never done it before, but it's called a cold compression test. And basically what they done was they submerged my right arm into a bucket of ice to see if they could trick the body into going into hypothermia. And what that does is that pumps the blood around the body a lot quicker. Anyway, they said, we'll do it for 2 minutes. If it don't open, then we're taking you to a cardio hospital. So 2 minutes come, nothing. And I said, look, just leave it in there for a little bit longer. Anyway, they managed to get them open. All of them opened at the same time. But then under further examination, they noticed that on the artery wall was some scarring. And that basically was proof of steroid abuse. They basically said that was years of steroid abuse, the sarcoid, just multiple things. Didn't know what had triggered it, but they just said that was what the problem was. Something had got into my bloodstream that the arteries didn't like, and their natural reaction was to clam shut. So now I take a tablet to basically thin the blood to keep the blood pumping. They give it for people that suffer with angina, but again, it's another worry. But you know, it's all these things, you can't let them get you down. You've got to keep positive. You've got to keep headstrong. And I keep myself busy. Don't get me wrong. I don't have much time to myself, but that's through choice. That's my way of dealing with certain aspects of you know what's happened. But for me, I can't speak for yourself, but I think the person that has suffered the most has been my beautiful wife. That's just been my rock. She's been there. She's seen things that I haven't. You know, seeing a tube down my throat, seeing me on a life support machine, being told that I may never come through this. She's been through the mill. So it's my wife that, you know, I feel sorry for, because I've been through it myself, but most of the time I was out for the count. You know, I was incoherent. I didn't know what was going on. But she's the one that's had to pick up the pieces. So for me, my job is to keep strong, keep positive, keep the family going, you know, making sure that my wife and daughter don't go without. So that's what gets me up every day, knowing that I've got an amazing family. I've got a fantastic network of friends. And you know, you've just added to that. Life's good at the moment. I can't grumble. I mustn't grumble.
Well, I gotta say, one thing I was almost immediately aware of is your positive attitude. It's so infectious. You've always got a smile on your face.
Yeah,
it's yeah.
Listen, we're here once and once only. We've got to enjoy it. You know, I've dodged the bullet twice now. I ain't gonna dodge it a third time. So it's all about just keeping positive. Surround yourself with people like yourself that's there for a purpose, that you know, that educates you. You know, we've got to learn something new every day. Otherwise, we slip through the net, don't we? We just muddle through. You've got to keep positive. And you know, speaking off screen, you doing your triathlon, it keeps you steadfast. It does. It keeps you motivated. You know you're coming home to a beautiful family. That's the key for me.
Absolutely.
If I didn't have my family, as in my wife and my daughter, I think it would have been a different conversation. Because as you've probably been there yourself, you have some days where you think, I don't even want to get up. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. But then you look around and you think, I've got to get up. I've got to show face. I've got to just knuckle down and just get on with it. You know, no one's going to sit here holding my hand, paying my bills. Listen, get up and do it yourself. You just have to do it. And that's me, really. You know, I've been dealt some real bad cards, but Yeah,
You
it's
don't give up.
family and friends. No, never, ever
You
give
don't
up.
give up.
You just
No.
no, never, ever. And with your triathlon, I applaud you. I wish I could have the motivation that you've got, even half of the motivation that you've got, and I'd be a happy man. And how's things with you now? Have you heard any more, or?
Oh yeah. All steady with me. Last MRI was stable, no growth. So I'm still going through those every 3 months, monthly check-ins, monthly blood work. My clinical trial recently passed the first phase, so I think
Oh, fantastic!
I'm truly not sure what that means, but
Yeah,
it just means that we're one step closer towards being able to bring it to the public, I believe. It was
yeah,
more, is it safe to take this drug? Basically, I was lucky enough to get selected into that first cohort, and it was a little bit of a struggle, but so far so good. And every 3 months, I kind of have to check myself as I walk in for the MRI, and then wait for the results. But I don't let that slow me down. I just keep, like you, I just keep positive and tell myself that if I don't get the results that I'm hoping for, that's not the end of the line. It just means there's more work to be done.
absolutely. And regardless as to what card you're dealt, you deal with it on that day. You've just, yeah, it is. It is a case of staying positive. Like you're talking about clinical trials there today, just now. So I went for we call it over here in the UK, an ENT, which is ear, nose, and throat surgeon. So I went to see an ear, nose, and throat surgeon because we spoke before. I've got no smell or taste. That happened back in 2014 when I had the respiratory arrest. When I came out of the coma, I had no smell or taste. So I went today to speak to them, and basically they've said it's less likely that I'm going to get my smell and taste back because it's been so long. I had an operation in 2016, which they removed polyps in the naval passage, and it cured it. I wouldn't say cured it fully, but I got a little bit of smell back. And then after about 8-10 weeks, it went again, and I've never bothered going back because they've just given me medication, nasal sprays. So I went today, and he basically said we can't see it ever coming back, but there is a clinical trial that we are willing to put you on. Obviously, we can't guarantee that anything's going to happen, but if I want to go for nasal surgery again, there's a 6-year waiting list.
Right.
So they said, but if you do the clinical trial and it doesn't work, or it does, then that basically might give you a little leg up. So rather than waiting 6 years, you might only wait 3 years. So it halves the time I'd have to wait. But to be honest, like what I've spoken to you, I'm willing to help anybody, and if it helps, science as such, then I'm all for it because I've got nothing to lose, but a lot to gain. I could potentially get my smell back, and I'm obviously helping others possibly get the treatment that they need. So I suffer with a thing called rhinitis. It's called chronic rhinitis. And it is just inflammation of the airways. So the walls in my nasal passage are twice the size what they should be. So I had a camera put down my nose today, which I felt in my stomach. It was that big. So I had that today, and he just said, yeah, he said we need to do something, and I want to put you on this clinical trial. So I'm just waiting for them to contact me with all the details. and then I'll be running some tests back and forwards from the hospital with doing various tests and such forth. So yeah, so it's good things. It's a new year. Let's get it done.
I commend you and I applaud your basically your positivity, but also your willingness to put your body kind of on the line just for the sake of, there's your benefit also in there, but it's also very selfless. So you're helping other people and you're helping, as you said, science.
And listen, that's exactly the same as you. And so, I'm only, you're leading by example. So if we can all have the same mindset, I think we'll do all right.
And I also just want to say, you said you don't speak to people very often. You don't really open up about this. I definitely want to thank you for taking your time today to open up your story and just share with me and all my audience as well, because it's again, we're just talking about helping others through being selfless. I think sharing your story as you're doing right now truly speaks to your your greatness as a person, as a father, as a husband, and it's commendable.
Oh, that's very kind words, and I really do appreciate it. But like I say, it's not been an easy ride. There has been fantastic times, when you're filled with love and admiration for others, meeting new people. But then there is times where you're feeling down, you're feeling rubbish, and all of a sudden your mind just goes in a different direction that you don't want it to. But it's how you pick yourself up. It's how you get yourself away from that path. Like I say, back when it first happened, I kind of, like I said, I didn't think about it. It's not until a few years on where I've been thinking more and more about it, and it's been harder to get my head around. There's been days where I've been really upset, and I'm not a guy that cries. I don't show emotion. And there's days where I've just sobbed my heart out for no reason. Literally, just couldn't tell you what it was. I just cried. It's like a build up of pressure, and it's been tough. It has been tough. And even talking to you now, part of me thinks I could have done things differently. I could have sought the help nearer the time. But back then, I thought to myself, well, what are they going to tell me that I don't already know? As in, like, I just want to get back to normality. I just want to get back to being a father, being a husband, going paddle, doing the things that we've always done. Right. But it's now I'm struggling with it. I'm not going to lie. I'm I'm heavily sedated, should we say? I rattle like a medicine cabinet, but it keeps me level. It helps. There's days where I don't want to take medication, but I've accepted the fact that I just need something to help, just get you through the day-to-day living as such. But, without all of the drugs for various, because I take antihistamines for allergies, I take painkillers. Without all of them, the thing that gets you through is, like I keep saying, is your great family and your friends, because without them, we're nothing. We're just two guys that have been dealt real bad hands. But thankfully for us, we've got amazing families.
Absolutely.
I know I say it a lot, but that is the key. It's having a great support network.
Absolutely, buddy. It's true words were never spoken.
Yeah, and you know what? It's this stigma about blokes not talking, blokes trying to be too manly, and I think if I'd have done things differently, I definitely would have spoken to somebody at the time. But me being pig-headed and just wanted to be stubborn and bury my head in the sand, I'm paying for it now. But you know what? I can't grumble. Like I say, I've got a roof above my head. There's food on the table. and I've got amazing people. So yeah, it's good. Life's good at the moment. Life is good.
Well, again, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, Kieren. Thank you for sharing your time and your story. I mean, so open and honest. Much appreciated.
Like I say, if there, if there's anything else that, is there anything else that you'd like to know, or, because like I say, I've agreed to come on here being open, as honest as I possibly can, and if it can help other people, then that's great. That's fantastic.
Well, there's nothing I can think of at the moment, but if you're open to doing more stuff and just keeping the conversation flowing, I think that would be wonderful for everybody.
Absolutely, anytime. That, Daniel. I'll always be here, and like you say, you've got a buddy for life now. You really have.
Appreciate that. You too.
All right, brother. You take care.
You too, brother. All the love to you
God
and your
bless.
family. You too.
God bless. Take care. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.